This is the Warwick Over 35 Softball League Nightly News with your host, James P. House. Good evening, America. Tonight, we have a special guest in the studio, coach and husband extraordinaire Joe Slocum of the Jamison Springbrook softball team that competes in the Warwick Over 35 Softball League in Warwick, Pennsylvania. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, India. Thank you, Terror. Thank you, Salvation.
Okay, Joe. Let's discuss the team and its players. Please, Joe, hold nothing back, pull no punches.
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Tell me lies.
Joe, let's start from where it began. The regular season. How do you think the regular season went?
I'm winning. I'm winning. I'm winning. I'm winning. I'm winning. When I go on the 10, I'm losing again.
So, I assume you felt the regular season was a success.
Yeah, baby! Yeah.
Okay, Joe, this is a part of the show where the questions, at least to you, might get a little tougher. I'd like to ask you to say a few words, a few comments, whatever you feel about every member of the team. I'll say their name, you give a few comments.
Oh my God.
Okay, here we go. Okay, let's start off with one of the original members of the team, Bill Ambrose. So, Joe, in a few words, describe Bill. Okay, Joe. Now how about this? Bill missed a few games. Can you give us a reason why? Now give us your impression of Bill. How do you really feel about him?
Winter, spring, summer or fall. Now all you got to do is call, and I'll be there, yeah, yeah, yeah. You've got a friend.
Next up on the roster, Howard Angstedt. Agstedt? Angstad? All right, Howie. Joe, what do you think about Howie? Is Howie a nice guy? Joe, what do you feel about Howie marrying the beautiful Heather? Joe, if there was one thing you could say to Howie, if Howie was out there somewhere in the world among the millions of people watching this show, if there's one thing you could say to Howie, what would it be?
I believe in miracles. Since you came along, you sexy thing.
Okay, Joe, next up, Big Sam Barilla. Although Sam has moved away, he still tries to make it back for every game. Joe, what did Sam tell you about driving the distance to come to the game?
It is the night, my body's weak. I'm on the run, no time to sleep. I've got to ride like the wind to be free again.
Joe, it's a well-known fact that Sam is his own man. He likes to make his own decisions, and he lives with them, either right or wrong. Sam got thrown out at the plate this year. What did he say to you when he came into the dugout?
Darling, you sent me. I know you
Joe, if you talk to Sam this winter, what will you say to him?
Hello, how are you? Have you been alright through all those lonely, 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 lonely nights?
Next up on your roster of players, Joe, is Nate Barone. Joe, if there was a song that could describe Nate's season, what would that song be?
There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza. There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, oh.
Joe, Nate just did not look himself this year. Maybe it was the weight loss. I mean, physically he looks great, but his play, well, it could have been better. Joe, did you say anything to Nate about his game? Joe, there was rumors that you talked to Nate. You discussed next season. What did he say he was going to do next season?
Right now, lose it. Just lose it. Go crazy. Oh, baby. Oh, baby.
Joe, next up on the hit list, and it's funny I said hit list, is Mike Ballwash. Because, frankly, Joe, in the last 3-4 years, he has not hit it. Joe, what did you say to him to make him hit so much better this year? Joe, there's rumors around the league that Mike's hitting vastly improved because he came up with a sort of battle cry. If you could, Joe, please tell the audience or try to imitate Mike's battle cry. Joe, after Mike's comeback season, what did he want? What is the one thing he wanted most when the season ended?
One bourbon, one scotch, one beer.
Let's talk about Ken Haig. Big Kenny, you grew up with him. All your friends grew up with him. You guys all grew up together. And then when you invited him back to the team, what did you say to him?
We tease him a lot, 'cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
It's been noticed that sometimes Ken's running and or hitting style bothers you. What do you say to him when you're being bothered by this?
I told you not to be stupid, you moron.
Let's talk about one of your core players, Bruce Knapp. Joe, give us your opinion of Bruce.
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play.
Bruce has gained some weight over the last few years. What did he say about gaining the weight?
And I'm hungry like the wolf.
Rumor has it that you talked to Bruce about what he meant to the team. What did Bruce say he thought he meant to the team?
Jesus Christ, superstar. Who did it
Wow, he really thinks that himself. What was your rebuttal to his opinion of himself?
I hear ya.
Joe, next up, your good friend and neighbor, Jim Lavery. What does Jim usually say to you when he gets to the game?
Oh, put me in cold. I'm ready to play today.
What usually happens when you submit to Jim's request about coming into the game?
Well, it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
What has Jim said to you about coming back every season after so many injuries?
I'm a survivor. I'm not gonna give up. I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna work harder. I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. Keep on survivor.
Good for you, Jimbo. Keep up the hard work. Up next, super sub Matt Ski. Joe, what do you think of Matt?
When Captain America throws his mighty shield, all those who chose to oppose his shield must yield.
Joe, in one of the playoff games, Matt had a throwing error where the ball popped out of his hand, and Matt just stared at his hand, perplexed, while the ball rolled away. What did he say to you later?
Will you bite the hand that feeds you? Will you stay down on your knees?
After that error, Joe, did you have anything to say to Matt?
You're tearing me apart!
Up next, your lifelong pal and starting left center fielder Paul Mathis. Did you say anything to Paul before the season?
Do what you want, 'cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate.
Yar har fiddle-dee-dee, being a pirate is a recipe!
Joe, that's a sign of a good coach, to let his players play and be who they want. Joe, we've heard that Paul, when he's running around the bases, he runs perfectly. Everything is in complete sync. Is that true?
His hair was perfect.
Joe, describe Paul on the base paths. Joe, do you have anything else to say about Paul?
That's it.
Are you sure?
That's it.
All right, Joe, then let's move on. Your next player, starting left fielder Matt. Some say Matt plays with some anger. What do you feel?
Why must you be such an angry young man when your future looks quite bright to me?
Joe, second round of the playoffs, Matt on vacation. Did you say anything to him?
Me and the rest of the family here singing Where'd You Go?
I miss you so. Seems like it's been forever that you've been gone.
Joe, did you accept Matt's excuse for absence?
Police.
All right, Joe, enough about Matt. Next up, Rick Dustin Hoffman Noga. Joe, Rick had a great year. What did you say to him when you told him he was going to have a lot more playing time this year?
Well, we're moving on now to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky.
It's nice to see that a good guy, a good all-around player like Rick, got more playing time this year. Now, Joe, if you could compare Rick's body style to any object, the shape of his body to any object, what would it be?
I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here's my handle, here's my spout.
Oh, Joe, boy, you get me sometimes. That was funny. All right, all kidding aside, describe Rick's style of play. Joe, next up, Scott Reuter. Great player, all around great guy, very down to earth. Joe, what did Scott say about being so down to earth?
My life is a ball, what a shock. I'm still Scott from the block.
Scott went deep into many at-bats. He really brought the ball and strike count up, and he made the pitcher throw a lot of pitches. Joe, what did Scott say he was trying to do with all those pitches to him?
Staying alive.
All right, Joe, next up on the hit list, the big man, Jim Rudolph. Joe, describe Jim Rudolph's base running.
The bear went over the mountain. The bear went over the mountain. The bear went over the mountain to see what he could see.
Joe, what did Jim say to you when you described his base running like that?
And you don't mess around with Jim.
There were rumors that the league would have a Saturday playoff game and that your team might be in that game, Joe. We heard Jim was very excited to be playing on a Saturday. What actually did he say to you about that game?
Saturday in the park. I think it was the 4th of July.
Next up, the most hated man in Warwick softball, Dave D.H. Soldano. Joe, describe Dave. Joe, it's a well-known fact that you and Dave sometimes hang out at bars. We've heard that when music comes on, Dave thinks a certain thought. What do you tell him?
You're so vain. You probably think this song is about you. You're so vain.
Joe, although Dave is a totally excellent softball player, sometimes he gets out of hand. What do you tell him when he starts getting out of hand?
Shut up! Sit down!
Do you care if Dave gets upset when you say those things to him?
It doesn't matter.
Next up, Dan Mom Wilbarn. Joe, tell us what Mom says to you when you need him. Anytime, anywhere, what does he tell you?
I'm a fool to do your dirty work. Oh yeah.
Joe, you and Mom have been good friends for many years. You've played on many softball teams together. But last year, something unique came up. You took him out of the pitching position for the first time. What did you tell him when you took him out? Joe, there's a very unique sound Mom makes when he's on the mound pitching. Can you imitate that sound for our audience? Joe, your good friend Frank Leo has been an avid supporter of the team for the last few years. Although this year, he hasn't showed up to many games. Did he give a reason? What did he say?
I said, but I'm tired.
Well, I definitely know how he feels. I'm tired a lot too, Frank. Joe, next up. Assistant coach and your wife, the beautiful Sue Slocum. Joe, what do you have to say about Sue? Joe, if you ever needed Sue to pinch run, what would you tell her to do?
I keep away from a run around Sue. I play that yeah, keep away from this girl.
Joe, if there's one thing you would like to say to Sue and actually let the millions around the world know, what would it be? Tell her right now.
I will always love you.
Joe, that was really nice, man. You got me on that one right in the heart. Almost. All right, Joe. If there's anything you would like to say to all the past players who have left the team, what would you like to say to them?
Rebel souls, deserters we are called.
Although they've knocked you out of the playoffs this year, Joe, do you have any kind words for Aston Reserve?
I'm a loser, baby, so why don't you kill me?
Joe, now be nice. Say a few nice words about Aston Reserve. Well, I have to agree with you on that one, Joe. I feel the same way about those Aston jerk-offs. All right, Joe, just for a second, let's talk about the commissioner, Jack Cataldi. Joe, how does Jack make you feel?
You make me come. You make me complete. You make me completely miserable.
Joe, it's come to our attention that there has been a new nickname created for you. Many of your teammates have been calling you Mongo. What do you have to say to that? Anything else you'd like to say about that nickname? Oh, that's a good one. All kidding aside, Joe and Sue, we would like to thank you both for everything that you do for us. We really appreciate it. Please, please, please keep being our coach. We're going to win it again next year. Joe, Any last comments for the team and all the fans they bring every week?
We are family. Sing it to me. I got all my sisters with me. Sing it to me. We are family. I can hear you, y'all. Get up, everybody, and sing. We are family. Hey, hey, I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, y'all. Get up, everybody, and sing. We are family. I got my sisters with me.
This has been the Warwick Over 35 Softball Nightly News with your host, James P. House. Good night. God bless.